Hello. I first want to thank everybody for their kind words about the last video, the one with the gang. We had a lot of fun doing it, and I think that we might do more like that if we can come up with a neat topic to kind of go along with that. Wow, a lot has happened since we last talked, and um, let's see. A lot of you know that I went back to work, and some of you know that the job didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. A couple of Fridays ago, I had a major meltdown at work, and they had to send me home. What's funny is that they wouldn't let me go on my own. The company nurse said that I had to have somebody take me home, so we tried very hard to get a hold of Melissa, and that was an interesting, because I couldn't get her by phone because she doesn't have a direct line at work, and her cell phone gets crap reception at work. So I had to have the company nurse sign into my Gmail account and sign into my Gmail account and chat with Melissa. And it was kind of funny because the nurse wrote this huge thing, and then Melissa's response was, "Seriously?" So that was kind of amusing. But and just to give you an idea of why I quit, and not to think that I was a pussy and couldn't handle it. At the beginning of November to the end of February, to the last week of February, there was slated 600 work hours to build computers. Period. That was a block of time that was set aside just to build computers for the national sales meeting that's coming up in the middle of March. On top of that, by the way, would have taken 15 weeks to do. 15 work weeks. That's 3.5 months. Now, if everything had gone according to plan, the way they wanted it to work, the way they had it in their heads to work, that would have been fine. But it wasn't going to work that way at all. How it was going to work was, in reality, the two people that they have pulled off of the project in the beginning of November had to be brought back on, and they were still running out of time. I was building total work time for one computer to image, to configure, and to set it up for the user was 6 hours. Period. That's just how long it takes. Doing that and taking calls, going on calls, dispatching repairs, making ourselves available for people who had to come and do repairs on printers and computers, and getting deliveries and stocking the toner room and checking email, being on call, and just everything else that we had to do. The way they wanted it to work wasn't working. So, long story short on that, the last I heard, they still were nowhere near ready when I quit. So I didn't accept that as an answer. And I really did try this. I really did try. I talked to my supervisors. I let them know what was going on. I talked to my manager. I let them know what was going on. And nobody seemed to quite understand that it was too fucking much. For some reason, they just weren't getting that part. So, a couple Fridays ago, I went to work, and the moment I turned my phone to available, it started. And then the Yahoo came in, and he started asking me a bunch of questions, and I was trying to answer emails, and I was trying to finish up some of my tickets, because I had 15 in my queue, and that just wasn't acceptable for me. And then my one supervisor came in and handed me a bunch of stuff. They brought me on the implementation of the new printers earlier that week. And basically what it is I had to go around to all of the printers in the building, and we had to switch them out. And then on that Friday, he came over to me, and he handed me a list of all emails and all fax numbers that were supposed to go into each of those printers. And he said, "Now I want you to go in when we get the IP addresses all set up and everything. I need you to go in and put all of this information in there. Good luck." And I started to feel my chest tighten. Everybody, I'm sure a lot of you know what the start of a panic attack feels like. Yeah. So I could feel that the panic attack was starting. Now, every morning I started my day off with a Xanax so I could leave the house. But when he handed me that stack of paper, I could feel it. It was just sitting there, and it was starting. And lately, I've had a new approach to my panic attacks, and I'm going to go into that in another video. So I took another Xanax, and an hour later, the panic attack was still there. I had to actually leave my desk. I left my desk, and I went to make a phone call to ask my doctor for a refill on the Xanax. So, did that, and I sat outside for about another 10 minutes, and I noticed that I still wasn't feeling better. So I got up and I went back into the building, and I went to the company nurse, and I walked into her office, and she said, "Hey," and she was like, "Do you need to sit down?" And I just nodded. I knew if I started to say anything that I was going to start crying. And she said, "Do you want me to close the door?" And I just nodded as I was sitting down, and she was like, "Okay, so tell me what's going on." And I said, "I'm having a panic attack." And I just started crying. And I couldn't stop for an hour. I just couldn't stop. And about half an hour into it, she was like, "I think you need to go home, and I'll take care of your manager, and I will take care of, telling your supervisor. But I don't want you to drive home. I don't feel comfortable letting you drive home." So we got a hold of Melissa, and Melissa left work, and she came and got me, and we went home, and I cried the whole way home. And then when we got inside, I was like, I don't know if I can keep working there, because it's just too much. The funny thing is, not funny haha, but funny is that Dr. Kelman told me that when I did go back to work, because we both felt that eventually I would be able to go back to work, she said, "You need a very low stress job, because of your breakdown. It's going to take you a few years to recover from it, and to fully recover from it, or even like 90% recover from it. Recovering from a breakdown is not easy, and getting to a functional point from your breakdown is not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of understanding of your own limits and this new box that you're in. Now, slowly, your box, your capabilities and your limits will expand, but to learn to live within those boundaries at first, it takes a lot of hard work. And that's something that was very, very difficult for me. But I did it. I'm still doing it. I'm still recognizing when I know when I can't do something. And I got to that point where I was starting to question if I was able to. Something else, people with certain disorders and people who've had breakdowns, I shouldn't say all, some, myself, I can't see when I start to fall apart again. I can't see when I'm starting to have issues, and I can't see when it's getting too much. But Melissa could. And she started to recognize that I wasn't going to be able to stay at that job. So Monday rolls around and I tell my boss, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to come back Monday. Tuesday, I say, okay, I'm still having a little bit of issue and I'm not going to be able to come in. And he was like, okay, thank you for the update. By the way, can you take care of this, and this? The person who is having emotional issues because you're piling too much work on them, I think that's the last thing you want to do, is to put work on them. That's just me. So, yeah. Wednesday, I went to work and sat down, and it started all over again. Immediately. And so I made the decision right then and there, and I was talking to Melissa in chat, and I let her know. And I asked her, I was like, I can try very hard to stay, but I'll have to bump up my Xanax in order to stay. Or I can quit, and it will be okay. And she said, I would rather have someone who is functional than a paycheck. And I thought that was very, very, very kind of her. So I started to get rid of stuff off my desk, cleared out my drawers, and I did this very, very subtly. And about 10:30, my supervisors all had to go to a meeting. The technological savvy guy, he had to go on a call, and the Yahoo was left with me. Packed up my stuff, and I told the guy that was still there, I said, I don't want you to freak out, but I'm quitting. And I turned in my key, and I went to the front desk and turned in my badge, and I walked out, and I felt so much better. I actually slept really well that night. And then Monday, I was offered a job. A couple years ago, I applied for disability when I was still unsure if I could go back to work or not. When I started back to work, I contacted my lawyer and said that I'm going back to work so we can just cancel the disability claim. And he's like, no, let's go for a closed period disability, because those do better. So I had my hearing February 13th for that. Again, 6 minutes. Went in, sat down. The judge didn't even talk to me, talked to my lawyer, and said, yeah, we're going for a closed period. And the judge said, well, the evidence supports the claim, and you'll hear from us. So that was, February 13th. So next week will be 4 weeks. ish. Probably the week of the 18th, I'll probably hear something from them, a yay or a nay. But yeah, made the decision that this year, no matter what, probably between May and September, I am moving. Melissa's gonna stay here, possibly. We're not breaking up or anything. I'm just going out into the world to find us a place. Whether I have a job or not. We're looking at the West Coast, and yeah, going to do that. And I think that's. Oh, I started seeing a new doctor, Dr. Johnson. He's an anxiety and agoraphobia specialist. Again, I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the panic attack. Well, I think that's it. Again, thank you guys for enjoying those videos recently. I will be back more frequently. Mimi and Beth are doing a video tomorrow. I think tomorrow or Wednesday. Tomorrow or Wednesday. So I hope everybody's well, and I love you guys, and I missed being here, but now I will be able to come back, and I hope you guys are well.